Hello, welcome back to Free Super Tips. I'm Statman Dave, and today I'm joined by Will Brazier to take you through all the bets for game week 5 in the Premier League. Of course, gamble responsibly if you decide to back any of our suggestions. Will, welcome to the show. First up, goals galore in the Premier League. Is that going to continue?
I think so, mate. Strap yourself in Saturday morning, wait there till Monday evening. Goals, 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 and I want more.
I can't wait for that. Of course, today we're going to be talking about the big topics, the Merseyside derby, Arteta versus Guardiola, Mark II, and of course, Manchester United's transfer signings. If you want to check out any more free tips or free suggestions, go over to freesupertips.com and go and dive over and check out what they've got to say about this game week in the Premier League, because they've got winners. They've got winners, Will. Yes, last week we had 3 winners on the show. First up, FST's winner in the Everton-Brighton game. Everton to win. Dominic Calvert-Lewin to score anytime, and of course both teams to score, coming in at 4-1. Great odds there. But odds. Not as good as my suggestion. 18-1. Big winner. We had Everton draw, double chance, Mope anytime, Calvert-Lewin anytime, and over 3.5 goals. 18-1. Big shout there. We had our first guest winner, which was nice.
Wow.
David Cartledge from ESPN took home a bit of a win as well. Arsenal versus Sheffield United, under 3.5 goals. Most goals in the second half. Will, can you beat that this week?
Yes, I'll go for 2. Put me down for 2, please, Dave.
First up, we've got to talk about the Merseyside derby. 1st versus 5th in the Premier League, although a bit of a different way round. You'd expect Everton to be in 5th position, or maybe Liverpool top of the league, but it's not happened. Liverpool losing 7-2 last time out. What has Jurgen Klopp got to do with his men?
I don't know. I mean, we were just talking then, even in the victories, they've not been that consistent, or that, you've not thought that the last season's domination, every game they went into, you'd expect them to win. And even the Chelsea game, they went down to 10 men. That Arsenal game, not that convincing. The Leeds scoring 3 at Anfield. So, I don't know, just a bit more consistency. Maybe this international break's what they need. A little bit wobbly. They've conceded 11 goals so far in the Premier League. 2 seasons ago, they conceded 22 in the entire competition. And last season as champions, 33. So they're already a little bit way through that. But in terms of Everton, they've been fantastic. They've been absolutely awesome this season under Carlo Ancelotti. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, 17 goals in all domestic competitions since Ancelotti signed as manager. Real top player, right? Yes, he is. I just want him to do it for the season. And obviously with my English cap on, if he can sort of, give Kane more competition or tie that in there, just want him to be consistent throughout the season, get 20 plus, and then I'll say, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, you are a very top player, sir.
You are a very top player, sir. But Will, is he in your bets? That's the real question. Are you going to back the man that put on his England shirt for the first time, grabbed a goal? We've got Van Dijk to score anytime. Calvert-Lewin is backed to score anytime, and most goals in the second half. Will, talk me through your bet.
Van Dijk, I think there's going to be lots of goals, and he is always a threat from a corner. That just boosts up the odds. What I've done in these predictions, Dave, I think you're the realist. You've got the stats to back you up.
Like it.
I'm a fantasist.
33-1. That is fantasy statistics.
Yeah. Calvert-Lewin score anytime, I think speaks for itself. Striker in form. Most goals in the second half. I just think some of those Everton performances, especially them lunchtime kickoffs against Albion and Brighton, they seem to have take a while to get into the game, especially James, and then in the second half he's found his feet, and that's why I think I'll be backing that beauty, Dave, at 33-1.
It's a nice bet. Of course, James Rodriguez has been directly involved in a goal every 41 minutes at Goodison, so, we could see that there, the assist potentially coming in. Let's take a look at my bet for the game. Slightly different. I've gone a little bit more conservative.
Ooh.
I feel this game's going to be one of those games that is a bit cagey.
Right.
Both teams have been so explosive going forward, have been pretty shoddy at the back in certain aspects. So I've gone Everton draw double chance. I'm backing the Blues of Merseyside. Both teams to score. I think that's going to come in terms of, you're looking at Liverpool's front line. Salah's got a pretty bad record against Everton. And usually with Mohamed Salah, when he's got a bad record, he does correct that himself. But Diogo Jota scored in his last appearance for Wolverhampton Wanderers against Everton. Kind of expect that as well. And of course, James Rodriguez, I mentioned before, but I think it's going to be a bit of a tight affair, under 3.5 goals. I could either see this being a 2-1 win for Everton, maybe a 1-1 draw, 0-0 draw. Not bad.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm just hoping to get on that goal train again and just keep this form going up.
Keep flying. So let's take a look at FST's bets right now. They've gone Everton draw double chance, both teams to score yes, and Calvert-Lewin any time.
I mean, the Calvert-Lewin thing speaks for itself. Both teams to score yes. I mean, that is a very tidy bet, Dave.
Very, very tidy bet, of course. Calvert-Lewin, joint top Premier League scorer this season with 6 goals, so could get another one against Liverpool. But that's an interesting one. I think Everton are geared to potentially be favourites in this game. Was kind of, I've backed that, FSTs have backed that. It's a bit of a weird situation to talk about.
I mean, yeah, going into it and you say that Everton are the favourites, obviously on form, but if you take the clock back 3 months, I mean, they're playing the Premier League champions, and Everton, after 4 games, people have already written Liverpool off, so I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as we think.
Next up, we're going to the bridge. Chelsea versus Southampton. Both teams came on top last time out, of course. Chelsea beating Crystal Palace 4-0 and Southampton beating a very poor West Brom team 2-0. But I think we've got to start with the home side with Chelsea. They've spent a lot in attack, but Ben Chilwell looks like a very, very good acquisition.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's that thing, can he keep it going throughout the season? I think the money that they spent on him was probably fair, but you've got that sort of English quota tax on top of that. It's a position they needed to fill. Obviously, Alonso's aging. I'd like to see him kick on. Obviously, I keep mentioning England, got my England hat on, and that's a position that we need to fill, and Chilwell's playing for a top 4 club in the Champions League. So, yeah, all the credit to him.
I think the interesting side of it, it was the first of Chelsea's summer signings to score in the Premier League.
Yes.
I imagine you've got some great odds if you'd back that one. But in terms of Southampton, they started off the season quite poorly, 2 defeats, but now back-to-back clean sheets, 2 wins as well. Danny Ings is a man in form, always looks super dangerous when he's playing for Southampton going forward, but he needs a support act. Is it going to be Che Adams or maybe Janipo, who had a very good game last time out?
Well, Dave, I'm a Birmingham City fan. Obviously, we sold Che to Southampton, and 90% of last season it didn't happen for him. And then we got to the last, I think, 4 or 5 games. He scored that worldie against Manchester City, and he showed a little glimpse of what he can do. He's played behind the front. He's played behind the attackers. He sort of can play as a number 9. So I think he's got all the attributes. He maybe just needs a good old arm around him.
You see, I'm going to go Janipo. I think he's a top talent, unbelievable feat, the ability to strike on goal. I like him, and I think he could be the guy with Danny Ings. But I think Che Adams as well. I think as a 3, they could be very, very dangerous. Play a workman-like midfield around them. Could be perfect. Let's take a look at your bet, though. Chelsea versus Southampton in the Premier League. You've gone with Southampton to win the game. Ings anytime. Both teams to score. Now, that is a curveball.
Yeah, as I said, Dave, I am a fantasist. I think, like you said, Southampton have picked up their form, and the most interesting thing, I think, is those 2 clean sheets. I watched them against Spurs. The line in the second half, it was like Sunday League stuff without a linesman. They were just pumping it long. Tottenham were getting in every time, but they've solved that. Ings, like you said, I mean, if there's ever a striker one-on-one with a keeper, that's what I want. Obviously, Chelsea have got that new keeper. Maybe a few nerves under it. He did get a clean sheet in his first game. But I do think there'll be goals. Yet again, it's the Premier League of 2020-21. There's always going to be goals. So that's probably a big upset to happen. But I've just not been fully convinced with Chelsea yet.
Pretty sure Southampton turned them over 2-1 at the Bridge last season. So could be there. Nathan Redmond starred in that game, so maybe it is time for Janipo off one of the flanks to perform. But you can't, not back Danny Ings, Jamie Vardy, the only English goal scorer to score more goals since the start of last season. He is in such good form right now. But I don't have him in my bet.
Right.
I've put him in the bin. I've gone over 2.5 goals in the game. I think goals galore. And we're continuing with Timo Werner to score. We're going to do this until he scores. He's going to be in every single bet. The big thing, though, tactically, this is a good bet. Pace that Timo Werner has, the high line you mentioned of Southampton, could cause absolute riot on the counter-attack. I think with Pulisic coming back as well, there's a little bit more pace and threat to Chelsea, and I've got both teams to score. So I kind of feel this game, I don't know who to back, because I kind of like Southampton in this game. I like how they squeeze the play and they could force Chelsea, to play poor possession and nick it high and transition. So I've kind of gone away from that, gone goals, gone Werner to score anytime, and both teams, of course, to bag goals. Let's take a look at FST's bet as well, because they usually come up with some absolute fire. Over 3.5 goals, Ings anytime. Same thinking as you, Will.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you've got a striker like that, against that back line of Chelsea, which is still getting to know each other, and, there are cracks in there, I think Danny Ings could, definitely grab 1, maybe 2.
Right, it's time for the game of the weekend. Man City versus Arsenal. It's another master versus apprentice clash for Pep Guardiola this time. He is the master. Arteta is the apprentice. Last time out, of course, the FA Cup semi-final. A 2-0 win for Arteta's Arsenal. Aubameyang grabbing both. Surely Guardiola's got to have made a bit of a plan to counteract the Gabonese centre-forward?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like we've mentioned this master versus the apprentice a lot, but it's with Arsenal now, I feel like they relish the big games a lot more, especially going into the Arsene Wenger era and Emre. Those top 6 games were sort of, what the result
written off in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's a lot more entertaining for the neutral. I'll be sat down there with my popcorn, but I do think after watching the Manchester City versus Leeds game, I do think Arteta's got a very good chance here.
It is an interesting one. I think Arteta's done really well in these big games. It's kind of like defending this 5-4-1. Then Maitland-Niles, or the left wing-back, comes into central midfield. Tactically, absolutely brilliant. But I just think Guardiola can't allow his apprentice to do him twice. I just feel that there's got to be something there. KDB is an injury concern, but if he can get flying and he can get running at that defence, I think there's big problems. Talking about midfield, Arsenal, the party has started with those guys. Big signing from Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, exactly. We were debating off air about how do you get them in, but I'd like to see, maybe all three of them, especially against the Manchester City, because they are playing, the three centre-backs?
So it's back three. They usually go in two midfield. It was, Ceballos and Granit Xhaka. So you're saying Ceballos, Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey, 4-3-3?
I think that's my Football Manager head on. You've got a deep line playmaker, sort of box-to-box midfielder and a ball-winning midfielder as well. So if they can let them front three do what they need to do, and they've got three centre-backs in there that they've been playing, but they're not exactly world beaters, are they?
They're not, but then I think that's the security of playing a back three potentially in that situation. The interesting side with Thomas Partey, if you look at his stats in the Liga last season and compare it to Arsenal's team, he topped them for progressive passes, successful pressures, tackles plus interceptions, dribbles and through balls. So the thing with Thomas Partey, ain't just a ball winner, he can play as well, and I think that pass into the striker's feet, which Arteta and Guardiola both love, he can play that. But let's have a look at the bets. We've spoken enough about the tactical side of things. Let's talk about the bets. So, Will, you've gone for a big one again, a 12-1. Yeah. One of these come off, you see. You're in with a big shout of taking home the W in this game week. Arsenal to win the game, Aubameyang anytime, and both teams to score.
Yeah, Aubameyang speaks for itself. Again, I've gone for the both teams to score angle just because this Premier League season has been absolutely mental. And Arsenal to win the match, I just think what we've seen on past records, Arteta's got the number over Pep Guardiola.
I think the nicest thing about how Arteta plays Man City is he doesn't play long. Like the two goals they scored in the FA Cup, or two really good moves out of the back, playing through the lines, literally playing Guardiola at his own game, stretching the pitch, working it for the wide player to run inside. It was absolutely beautiful. So I wouldn't be afraid of that. You see, I've gone the other way. I've gone for Man City. I just think Guardiola's going to be like, right, this is how we fix this problem.
Right.
So I've gone Man City to win, Sterling anytime, Aubameyang anytime. I agree with Aubameyang, the 2 goals in the FA Cup going to come in. Sterling. So Sterling was fantastic against Leeds United. Created 5 chances, had 5 shots on goal, 6 dribbles. He was the danger man.
He was the danger man. He got that goal, but he had a few one-on-ones as well where I just thought he needed to be, especially playing that 9 role, need to be more convincing. He's
also scored 3 in his last 4 Premier League games against Arsenal. I just think one chance he'll put away, and I think it's going to be a big game for Raheem Sterling. And the work that Arteta did with Sterling as well. He speaks a lot about him, tactically, how he coached him in that thing. So I think it's going to be a big game for him. Let's check out free super tips bets as well. They've gone for over 3.5 goals in the game, both teams to score, and then Lacazette anytime. So the interesting part of Lacazette anytime, he's got the best XG of any Arsenal player. Right. So he's getting the best chances. He's also scoring goals. So maybe that's kind of like a little bit of a backward shout, but I quite like it.
He's sort of the forgotten man of that front three. Obviously, Willian's come in with all his praise and everything he's been setting up, and Aubameyang speaks for himself. But Lacazette, when you get through on goal, we spoke about it with Ings as well. He's pretty much up there as well. Very prolific.
Next up, we've got to go for the 8 o'clock kickoff. Newcastle United versus Manchester United. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's men, of course, didn't have a game pre-international break, but Newcastle were flying.
Yeah.
Burnley hammered them. St Maximin, Joe Linton, and of course Callum Wilson combining. Is that going to be too much for Harry Maguire and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's defence?
If you can get Joe Linton firing, Steve Bruce deserves an MBE, if not a knighthood, because that's the story of the season.
Hold on, just to defend Joe Linton. At Hoffenheim, played as a 2. Was fantastic. He's been played as a lone forward for a season.
Mate, you got to fit the system. He's been brought in, but he Steve Bruce is stuck with him, and a lot of players that you speak to, they say Steve Bruce a fantastic man manager, and he's obviously done without Joe Linton.
He really has, and I think St Maximin is the star of the show at the moment. His goal was fantastic, the feints, the balance, then the assist as well for the back post for Callum Wilson. He's just a player that's exciting.
Yeah, exactly. The headband's gone, I think, now, but he's still 5-star. He's one of your FIFA players that you'd get in there, and you just want to watch him every week, don't you?
You do. You really want to watch him. In terms of players you want to watch from Manchester United, deadline day moves for Alex Telles, Cavani, of course, Ahmad Traore, that's going to come in January, and Facunda Pellistri. All signed, but you're looking at Telles is potentially going to be a bit late for this game. Cavani's in quarantine for this week. So it's looking like potentially a similar 11 for United.
Yeah, Telles, smart signing. I think Luke Shaw needs to be replaced. I think that centre-back option. I just don't understand why he'd let go of Chris Smalling. Some of the numbers he was putting up in Syria. You know, Dave, you are the stat man, but I think I'd have just kept him for a bit of solidity this season and try and shore things up. I
think the nice thing for Chris Smalling is he refound his form in Rome.
Yeah,
I think for him as a person, for his family, the move to Roma was just smart. I think, Rome is a fantastic place to live, and I feel a bit jealous. I'd love to be living in Rome with Chris Smalling. But let's dive into the bets. Enough about my Italian trips. Will, you're going for half-time Man United, full-time Newcastle.
Yeah, you know, Dave, look at the odds down there.
60-1, Wilson to score any time. Penalty taker, I like that bet. In good form as well. Joelinton being his partner, looking like there's a bit more of a threat for Newcastle United in their 4-4-2. But you're saying United are scoring and then Newcastle are capitalising? I
just feel like United are a bit more nervy with the lead as well, especially with all the pressure that's coming onto them. And obviously they took the lead against Tottenham and that was abolished within about 9 minutes.
I thought I said there was no game pre-international break, you know.
Sorry, yeah, but let's get the facts straight there. But I think Steve Bruce could do a number on his old men.
Okay, that's interesting. I've gone completely the other way. I think this is Mason Greenwood's game today. I think it's going to be the game. 8 o'clock on Saturday. Mason Greenwood's going to come alive. He's got a really good goal against Newcastle at Old Trafford. I'm going to go over 2.5 goals. I can see goals galore in this game. I also think Manchester United may play a diamond in midfield, which would suit Mason Greenwood, would suit Marcus Rashford, but it would allow Bruno, Pogba, Donny and Matic to play in midfield. I think that's where United are going to have to go. I think that's where they go, especially without Anthony Martial being suspended after the red card. That maybe shouldn't have been a red card. Lamella, is he going to play this week? Obviously. But it's an interesting side. Greenwood, anytime. That's what I'm going to go with. I think it's his time to explode this season. Now let's take a look at free super tips' bet for this week. Both teams to score most goals in the second half. So a slightly defensive shot. You know, you don't want to let the slips catch it, but I quite like it.
Yeah, I think that's safe, Dave. One thing you could not say about my bets are they are definitely not safe, coming in at 60-1, but it's a very tidy offering.
So now on to the first real relegation six-pointer of the year. Yeah, I've called it. We've got Sheffield United versus Fulham. This is a big game. Both teams out of form, out of favour, not looking good.
Yeah, I think it's very lazy to say that Sheffield United are having a bit of second season syndrome, but it does feel like they're having a bit of second season syndrome. The signings they've bought in have been... I know Wilder almost likes the project and that they've got to fit the system, so never disputing that, but even Ryan Brewster, he's coming into a team, 3 straight defeats, tough second season. I'd love to see him hit the ground running, but it's going to be very tough.
He really needs to. Of course, last season in the Championship, 11 goals from 22 Championship games. But it's a lot to ask for a 20-year-old to carry an attack. And Sheffield United aren't creating the same quality of chances they were creating last season. I think that, for me, is the problem. Defensively, they look shoddy. Ramsdale, said at the start of the season, poor buy. Rubbish, save percentage last season. He's kind of carried that through to this season. There's issues. Yeah,
and I think with Brewster as well, you mentioned the goals. If you go and have a look at them, some of those finishes are so instinctive. So if he can get in those areas, he has got a fantastic chance because he is just a natural finisher. But like you said, those chances are few and far between.
I think it'll be an interesting one because Fulham have looked very poor out of the back. They've been caught a lot from playing out of the back. They got caught last week doing the same thing. And I think that could be an opportunity for Sheffield United if they can nick it. And as you mentioned, Brewster's quality in the penalty area. Maybe it's time for the Blades to ignite their season. Let's dive straight into the bets for this game. Will, what are you going for? So you're going Brewster to score anytime, Mitrovic to be on fire anytime, and both teams to score coming at 13-2. Slightly more conservative this time.
I mean, that is very conservative for me. I think Mitrovic, just because I got him in my fantasy team, and I'm hoping that he finally... I mean, we saw what he could do against Leeds. He is a strong threat, and I think maybe the Sheffield United backline is a little bit weaker than he's been come up against so far. Both teams to score, obviously a given, and Brewster... his debut, things you love to see.
Things you love to see. Well, I've gone for a very defensive bet, to say the least. I think Sheffield United to win the game under 2.5 goals ain't going to be a classic, but I think this is the time. I think Sheffield United are a little bit more mature than this Fulham side, especially at the back. They've got a little bit more experience. I think that will really fly through. At 10-3, not too bad. Let's take a look at FST's bet for this game. Sheffield United to win as well, under 2.5 goals in the game. It's exactly the same. Big respect.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly pay-per-view, which has obviously been in the news recently, but I mean, if Sheffield United can get the win, that'll be all they need.
Another weekend, another game of attack versus defence when Crystal Palace are playing. This time, Brighton are going to be the attackers, Palace are going to be the defenders. Let's start with talking about Graham Potter's Brighton, because I think they've been slightly unlucky. They've outscored each of their opponents apart from one in XG. So underlying stats are saying Brighton should win games, but they've only won one. What's been going wrong?
I don't know, they've been very entertaining to watch, definitely from a neutral perspective, and you've seen the emergence of Lamperty as well, coming up from right wing back. It's been sort of a revelation there, hasn't it, getting the assists and winning the penalties that he's been doing. They've got a natural finisher in Malpay, and even Aaron Connolly I'd throw into that mix as well, because he's looked quite, what's the word I'm trying to say here, Dave?
Combative.
Combative, yeah, and he's very composed when you get into those areas, so I I don't know. It's just, I mean, we love the numbers, we love the stats, but yeah, I don't know why it's not been converted to points.
Luck, I think, is a big thing. Trossard, of course, so unlucky against Manchester United. Hitting the woodwork, hitting the post, the bar, absolutely everything apart from the back of the net. I think he could be crucial in this game against Crystal Palace, especially operating between their lines, getting on the ball. Palace were poor against Chelsea. I didn't think Chelsea played that well. It was always almost like Ben Chilwell created a lot of stuff from his crossing, but they didn't offer anything going forward. It's all on Zaha now. The window's closed. Is he now going to go back into that sulk mode?
It's strange, isn't it? I mean, probably for the last 4 to 6 windows, you've said Zaha's going to move, he's going to move on, and he hasn't done. I think, the goalie had more touches in that Chelsea game than Zaha. So, I mean, going into half-time, I thought they were in the game, and then that second half, they just sort of,
capitulated.
Yeah, and it was just, a Chelsea win and roll them over.
So expecting another rollover performance from Crystal Palace in the derby with your bets, Will?
Well, let's have a look, Dave.
Let's take a look at the bets right now. So we've got half-time draw, full-time Brighton, and Mopé to score first.
Yeah, Dave, we spent a lot of time together, and those stats are going to come good. I think that'll be a pretty dull affair. Maybe Brighton to nick one, and hopefully Mopé scores the goal.
It's an interesting one. So I've also backed a Mopé goal, but I've gone any time. In terms of XG, he's got the 5th best XG in the league. Of course, the penalty taker for Brighton, that's obviously boosts those stats up. But he's been a threat, and Brighton do create chances. So I've gone with a Brighton draw double chance at 21-10. Not the greatest odds, but I think this one could be the one this week. I really do. Let's take a look at free super tips bet for this game as well. They've got Brighton to win the game, over 2.5 goals, and Mopé any time. So we're all back in the centre forward. Yeah. Is he going to let us down?
Well, I think, like you said, penalty taker, and he always seems to be on to the end as well. You think about their moments against Arsenal last season, and when he gets in that box, even if it's on the left or the right, he can smash them in.
Absolutely smashed them in. Decent bets there. So moving on, Spurs come into this game after a demolition of Manchester United 6-1 in the Premier League. Jose Mourinho's side ran riot. Of course, Heung-min Son and Harry Kane are so in form right now. Has David Moyes and West Ham United got enough to deal with those two in-form players?
Don't know, it's very tricky. I mean, Heung-min Son, those finishes against Southampton, very composed, and Harry Kane sort of turning into an assist machine, isn't he? And even the emergence, well, not the emergence, but it's great to see the likes of Ndombele and Højbjerg. They ran that game against Manchester United, so it just feels more of a complete unit going into this game.
It really does. I think they attacked the flanks really well. Mourinho spoke about how he knew the United's attackers aren't going to track back. They overloaded it with Sergio Aurier, that is a player United should have targeted. They didn't. 6-1 winners. But let's move on to West Ham United. They're in a bit of a good run themselves. 4-0 against Wolves, then 3-0 against informed Leicester City. What's David Moyes doing?
Well, he's not been there, so maybe that is the catalyst. I think he returns in the dugout for this one, so maybe the form could start to dip down.
Maybe it could. Let's take a look at the bet straight away. Have you backed West Ham United? Can they capitalise on Tottenham's high line, maybe with Bowen, with Antonio? What have you gone for, Will?
Well, let's have a look. I have backed
over 4 goals in the game, Son to score any time, and half-time, full-time Spurs. So you're backing Jose Mourinho's Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, I think once Mourinho sort of gets in that run and he's got the dressing room behind him, he's got his system, I think the form's going to come to the fore. And West Ham have been playing brilliantly, but Heung-min Son, very composed in front of goal. And I just think I just got a little feeling it might be another demolition.
He's such a nice player to watch. Heung-min Son works exceedingly hard, runs in behind, he plays with such intensity. You're looking at, he's the top scoring midfielder in the league this season. I just think, I completely agree with that. That's why I've got him in my bet as well. You're looking at Heung-min Son to score any time, but also Harry Kane to score any time. So Harry Kane's the interesting one. So he's actually underperforming his XG. So he's underperforming the shooting metrics. So he should be scoring more goals.
Right.
So that's why you've got to go with that. Heung-min Son, just because red hot form, I can't look past that. I'm not actually back to side either, because I think West Ham have got the potential to cause a bit of problems going forward. They look a little bit more, reinvigorated under David Moyes. Obviously not on the touchline in the dugout, but they look good going forward. Now let's take a look at free super tips bet as well. They've gone over 3.5 goals in the game. Antonio to score any time, and Son. Antonio's a good one because he absolutely bullied Leicester City last week.
Well, he's the sort of same as Son, isn't he, where he just runs and runs and he never gives up. And when he gets in front of goal again, very composed, and he's been scoring lots of goals. Isn't he one of the top goal scorers in the Premier League?
He is one of the top goal scorers since we sort of restarted the football. We had the little break, obviously, and the start of the season came again. So, no, he is a man that's still very much in form. I thought his performance against Wolverhampton Wanderers deserved a goal at it, but he got one last week. So I think Antonio to score any time is a great bet. Coming in at 8-1, I like those odds.
Yeah, London derby as well, so it could there could be some silly mistakes that lead to over 3.5.
Now on to what you would describe as the underrated game of the weekend. We've got Leicester City up against Aston Villa. Two of the surprising sides. 5-2 against Manchester City for Leicester, and of course 7-2. 7-2! Liverpool got demolished.
Well, the Leicester one was not the strangest one after what we've seen, but after beating Manchester City and then losing 3-0 at home to West Ham, I thought they would have kicked on. But yeah, Aston Villa, I mean, half-time 4-1, and I think they could have had 9 or 10 in that game. Watkins hitting the bar, Barkley should have had a few. And as a Birmingham City fan, it does pay me to say, but Villa are looking very, very good.
One guy that's looking very, very, very good, Jack Grealish, 2 goals and 3 assists against Liverpool. Is he the best English midfielder right now?
I think so in terms of form. Just very exciting to watch. You don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to put a delicious pass in behind into Watkins, or is he going to take people on? It's just exciting to see.
He's a wonderful footballer. Talking about other English midfielders, James Maddison needs to sort of reignite his season. It's a stop-start campaign, injuries in and out. He should be back for this game. It's got to be 2 of the best players that are playing outside the top 6 there, Maddison and Jack Grealish.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they've got the chance with these teams to sort of lead them into this top 6 as well, especially the topsy-turvy season we're having. So, I mean, you look at the season, you look at the summer where people were saying Jack Grealish is definitely going to go, but he's been sold a project. He's staying there. He's a Villa fan, and maybe he could lead them into the top 6.
I think there's a few teams that could be doing with him. Man City, Manchester United. Could have got him in the summer, but let's take a look at the bets. Let's not talk about transfers because the window is closed. So, Will, you've gone with over 3 goals in the match. Watkins to score any time and both teams to score yes. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another goals fest. I've not predicted a winner in this, but yeah, I mean, Vardy hopefully gets his scoring boots back on. Watkins, striker's in form. You can't not back him. Some of those finishes against Liverpool were absolutely divine as well. The perfect hat-trick. And I've just got the theme of goals running throughout, Dave.
Lots of goals. Well, I'm going to go a little bit more, defensive in terms of backing a winner. I think Leicester City to win the game. You look at last season, they beat Villa 4-0 and they beat Villa 4-1.
But also take you to the Carabao Cup semi-final as well. 2-legged affair. Aston Villa came out on top, so there is pedigree there.
Well, that's why we brought you along. The Carabao Cup specialist, Will Brazier. I've gone Jamie Vardy to score any time. I just think it's time for him to score again. He's missed a few games. It's time to get back on that goal-scoring situation. And Barnes is kind of due a goal. He's been taking a lot of shots. Been performing really, really well for me. His last few games, he's been probably Leicester's best player, you'd say. So, I think that's going to be a simple win for Leicester City is how I've sort of phrased it. Now let's take a look at 3 super tips. Bet builder for the weekend. They've got Aston Villa over 1.5 team goals, Watkins to score and Vardy to score. So like you, Will, back in the goals.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at Villa at the start of the season. I thought the problems were still there. They only got 1 goal against Sheffield United and they had 10 men. Fulham obviously speaks for itself, but then they've absolutely blown themselves into life, haven't they? So, like that, Watkins in form. Vardy, against West Ham, he had quite a few chances and didn't manage to put them in the net. So I know you've backed him as well, but of penalty, I don't know, Dave, I'm torn.
Right, now onto a game that's going to cost you £15 to watch. I'd probably save your money. That is West Brom versus Burnley. The game you can miss this weekend?
I think the only people that will be watching it are West Brom and Burnley fans, to be fair, and even they might go out for a little walk. Potentially.
Let's take a look at the bet straight away. Let's dive in. Let's not mess about for this game. West Brom to win the game. Robinson to score first half draw. Full-time West Brom. So you're back in the baggies.
Yeah, both teams obviously no wins so far, but what West Brom have done have looked quite good going forward, which when they've been promoted before, I've not really said. So obviously the 3 goals against Chelsea, obviously they should have won that, but Callum Robinson, again, a striker in form, and he's got the creativity behind him. So again, I think it'll be a boring start, but maybe Baggies nick 1 or 2 in the second.
See, I'm going completely against that. I think Burnley is going to be the start of their campaign. I think they're going to win the game and Chris Wood to score any time. I thought they loaded the box really well last weekend. I thought that's going to be another method against West Brom. West Brom do play 3 centre-halves when you've got Chris Wood, Ashley Barnes. Balls into that penalty area. It's goals for me. I'm going to go for Burnley to win the game, Wood to score any time. Let's take a look at FST's tip. Bet builder for this game. They've gone Burnley, draw, double chance. Both teams to score yes.
I think yours and FST's very Burnley bet, as in, I like the game, it's not going to be very attractive. And
but it will come off?
Yeah, probably will come off now I've slated it, so yeah.
And finally, we've got to talk about Bielsa's Leeds up against Nuno Espirito Santo's Wolverhampton Wanderers. Leeds showed against Manchester City that they can roll with the punches in the Premier League. Rodrigo off the bench, supreme performance. He's got to start, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so as well. Patrick Bamford in form as well, which is something that was in question coming up to the league. But like you said, they were just going at each other, and for the neutral, it was fantastic watch.
What a game of football. One of the best 0-0s we've seen in a long time. Wolves have been slightly different than that in terms of the Premier League this season. Hot and cold. 4-0 defeat to West Ham, then beating Fulham 1-0. Not the greatest result, but Podence and Pedro Neto, I think they're going to cause Leeds a lot of problems with their direct dribbling.
Yeah, they've been very Jekyll and Hyde this season. I thought they'd benefit from not being in the Europa League. Obviously, last season, I think they'd already played 10 games going into this window. So I just think they just need that run of form, but I don't know if it'll come in this game.
You don't think it's going to come in this game? Well, let's take a look at your bet straight away then. Let's see what we've gone for in this. Over 3 goals in the game. Rodrigo to score any time. Match result, draw.
If I was being a bit more flamboyant, which I think I already have been here, I would have gone
28-1 is reasonably flamboyant.
I would go for 3-3. But I didn't want to put that much on the line. So, yeah, like you said, Rodrigo, looking like he's fitting into the Leeds system. Over 3 goals, I think speaks for itself. But I can't really split the 2 teams.
No, not at all. 2 shots on goal, 3 chances created from Rodrigo. I think Bielsa's going to start him, potentially in central midfield as well. A goal threat from that area. My bet's slightly different. I've gone for Wolves to win the game and both teams to score. I think Nuno Espirito Santo will have enough for this Leeds team. He's a manager that likes to plan tactically how to beat a team. And we mentioned before, I think the pace and the dribbling on the break is going to cause Leeds problems. Leeds are so good when they're pressing high, but if you can break through that first line, it's going to be issues. So I've gone both teams to score, Wolves to win the game. Let's take a look at free super tips bet builder for this last game. Let's see what they've gone for. Wolves to win the game, both teams to score, and they've thrown a cheeky Jimenez anytime.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Wolves winning this, like you said, like especially if you get Adama in there, get the pace, beat that. And as much as I don't like Wolves, Dave, I could see them winning this one.
Right, that's it for this week. Game week 5 done. The bets are all there, of course, if you're going to get involved. Please gamble responsibly. Will, thanks for stopping by. Where can the people find you?
Find me at my flat in Manchester or at Twitter at Will Brazier.
Lovely stuff. And we'll see you next time for some more bets being built.